All right, so you guys, I asked you to do this problem. Somebody, raise your hand, don't scream it out. Tell me what you did. Sarah? Oh, why'd you cross multiply? You remember seeing that before? And usually I yell at you when you say cross multiply, right? Because everybody wants to do it when they're not really supposed to. But this is the right time to do it. Anytime you have a fraction equals a fraction, not a multiply. That's where people want to say cross multiply when there's a dot in the middle, and that's not where you do that. But no, this is cross multiply. So 3 times x, 9 times 5, and then divide by 3. Yes. She just logically thought through that. I like that. She's like, wow, from 3 to 9, it's times 3. From 5 times 3, so that must be 15. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You read the paper. I love that. So what was your restrictions? Did you know what the restrictions were or no? What would the restriction be? What would the restriction be? Nope. 0. I can't have 0 for an answer. Thank you. You're like, 0. Like, duh. It's like right there. I know, but it was so funny, like that realization in your face.
It doesn't say restriction.
I know. No. Nope. All right. But guys, when you have fraction equals fraction, cross multiply. So today's lesson, that's all we're going to look at today. Fraction equals fraction. So on your red papers, I'm going to steal yours for a minute. Right, you have 2 solving categories, right? Fraction equals fraction. Look, there's 3 steps. That one's a lot easier, right? There's not much going on there. When we're looking at solving more than 2 fractions, you might have fraction equals fraction plus a fraction, right? Like you have more things going on. And again, they're not terrible, okay? Students typically do better there than they do on the adding and subtracting, if that makes you feel any better. Because when it gets to solving, we can like get rid of the fractions entirely. That is our goal. We get rid of them. Okay? So today we're working in the fraction equals fractions. Extraneous? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, sure, that's fine. All right. So for today, we are learning to look at just cross multiplying when you have fraction equals fraction. Tomorrow we will solve them using the LCD. Do we know what the LCD is? Least common denominator. We had to find that when we were doing adding and subtracting, right? So that will come back into play there. But today, seriously, I'm going to do, I think, 4 problems with you today, and that's it. That's it. Time to work on your assignment. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to do this and the other at the same time because then that confuses you. So we're gonna split it. All right. So fraction equals fraction. What's step 1? Cross multiply. Now, it is a little more complex than the one we just did. I'm going to go ahead and write it out step by step just so you can see exactly what's going on. Does it matter which way I cross? No. Like I could cross this way first or I could cross this way first. It does not matter. It does not matter at all. So if I cross this way, that's 3 times x minus 1. Yes. Because it gets multiplied by the entire thing. So you'll have to distribute. You can, yes. But like I said, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening because people have a tendency to multiply the 3 times the x and write 3x minus 1. That's what people have a tendency to do. So that's why I wanted to just kind of show you. So when you cross one way, equals, then we cross the other way. 4 times x plus 1. What do you notice is missing? What do I no longer have? Fractions. I don't have any fractions anymore. Yay! Right? There's no more fractions. If I gave that to, yes, I used my sweater when I closed the door. When I look at that, if I gave that to you and I said solve that, what would you do? What would you distribute, right? So 3x minus 3 equals 4x plus 4. Are you noticing there's no fractions? Everybody's seeing this. Fractions went away. It's beautiful. How do you solve that? Oh my goodness, we don't know how to solve a basic equation anymore. Yeah, I would subtract the 3x, not add it. That's a positive 3. Oh man, we're overthinking everything now. So negative 3 equals 4x minus 3x. It's just x. Gotcha. A lot of times students tell me the 3 and they don't just say the x, but that's what they mean, so you're good. Yep, then I would subtract the 4. So x equals negative 7. So look at your red paper. What was step 1? Cross multiply, which we did. What was step 2? Solve for x. Great, I have x equals negative 7. And what was step 3? Check for extraneous solutions. Guys, in parentheses behind this on your paper, right, look at restrictions. Okay, so and on your red paper, on step 3, right below there, in parentheses, right, look at restrictions. Because notice it no longer says restrictions on your paper. I told you I was teaching you restrictions early so that when we got to this point, it was second nature. Go back to the original problem. What would your restrictions have been? Plus and minus 1, right? Negative 1 from here, plus 1 from here. So your restrictions would have been plus or minus 1. So is this a restricted answer? No, it's fine. If I would plug negative 7 in here, it would not make a 0 here or here, so I'm okay. That's a good answer. Now we will get some where you're like, x equals 1, and you're like, wait a minute, no it can't, it's a restriction. Then you'd have no solution. It's just no solution, yeah, that can happen. All right, number 2. Again, I want you to get in the habit of recognizing these equal sign problems. Today, again, is fraction equals fraction. So we cross multiply. All right, so 1 times x squared minus x equals 2 times x minus 1. No fractions. They're gone. And again, does it matter which way I write that? No. Really? If I asked you to solve, what's your first thing of solving? What would you do? Not factor, solve.
Distribute.
You would distribute. You would distribute. Let's start there. So x squared minus x. I love that I've trained you guys to the point where you're like, there's an LCD of an x sitting in there. Like, that's what you want to do. Okay, hang with me. I'll show you. We've done this before. It's just been a little while. Then we have 2x minus 2. How do you solve something when there's an x squared in it? Well, there's a b term. Yes. If you have an x squared, set it equal to 0, so then you can factor it and solve. Now, if it wouldn't factor, most of them will. If it wouldn't factor, what would you do? I could use the quadratic formula. Yeah. Remember all those options we had? And I love square root method. You're like, square root method, but no, there was a b term. I can't do that. But yeah, so rule of thumb, guys, make a note to yourself if you need to. If you have an x squared, not on your red paper, you can put it in your notes. I can take your red paper. So if x squared, set equal to 0 and factor to solve. And again, you'll see a couple of these. It should come back to you. We've done this time and time again. So I'm going to set this equal to 0. So I need to subtract the 2x, and I'm going to need to add the 2 and bring everything over where my x squared is. So x squared, what happens when I move the 2x? Minus 3x. Move the 2, plus 2. Sorry, you're sitting like in that one spot that I get in your way. Yeah, I just subtracted the 2x over here to get negative 3x, and I added the 2. I'm just setting it equal to 0. Yeah, sorry, I assume at this point we can.
No, I was just.
Yeah, subtracted that, and I added the 2. That's what I did. I just moved everything over. And that's okay. Totally fine. If you cross multiplied the other way, so your stuff's on that side, that's okay. Now, did you notice I did that on purpose? The last problem I went this way first and then that way, but this one I switched it because I saw the x squared. I wanted it on that side. you.
That's the way I.
And that's totally fine. Does it matter? It doesn't matter. Good. Gotcha. X minus 1, X minus 2? Anyway. Okay, so we factored it. Then what? What's X equal? 1 and 2. Man, you guys are rough. A little rusty this morning. Now, let's come back to the part where it says check for extraneous. The restriction here would have been 1. What are the restrictions here? How would you find out what the restriction is there? What would you have to do first? You'd have to pull that GCF out to see it. So your restrictions would have been 0 and 1. So what happens here? That 1's no good. That's extraneous. So the only answer I really have is 2. Because one of our restrictions was a 1. 1 minus 1 puts a 0 in the denominator. I can't divide by 0. So 1 is extraneous. Now, notice how I wrote my answer. So is it okay if you do that? Absolutely. Right? You went through, you solved, you wrote your answers down, and you're like, oh crap, that's not good. Cross it off. I'm fine with that. You don't have to erase it. Just cross it off. Do what? The restrictions? You could have, but the reason I don't do them in the beginning is I don't want this in factored form because I have to cross multiply it. You could. You could. Yes. All right, number 3. You want to try it on your own? Okay, try it on your own. All right, guys. They looked really good. Now, the question came up, can you just see what your restrictions are from the very beginning before you start? You could. So let's kind of talk about that. So what would my restrictions be? -4, because you can really clearly see that one from here. What I don't want to happen, why I don't ask you that from the beginning like in your steps, is I don't necessarily want this in factored form when I cross multiply. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because then that's going to mess everything up. But in order to know the restrictions here, you would have to factor out an x, right? Pull out that GCF to be like, oh, my restrictions are 0 and -4. So if you want to do that from the beginning, that's fine, but ignore this then. Oh my goodness. You're right, that I'm trying to do and it's not like listening to me. Yeah, it just pulled out the GCF of an x.
So you just pick one of them? Doesn't matter which one you pick to pull the GCF. Oh, you have. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Right, which is why I'm like, you have to factor to know what the restrictions are, but we don't want it when we cross multiply because it's going to make it real ugly. Okay? Yeah. No solution. And that happens. Okay, so cross multiply. I'm going to go this way first only because I know that's going to put my x squared on that side. And again, I'm going to go ahead and show every step just so we don't lose anybody. So when I'm cross multiplying, that part's go in parentheses so I know to distribute. So we're going to have x squared plus 4x, which is fine, totally fine. Me personally, if you see my papers, I do too. I'm just making sure I show this because students have a tendency to like write 3x plus 4 here instead of 3x plus 12 because the people just tend to forget. If you're good at that, by all means. All right, since I have an x squared, set it equal to 0. If there's no x squared, you don't have to set it equal to 0, okay? Just solve it. But I have an x squared, so I need to. So we'll have x squared, move this over, I get just plus x, move the 12 over, minus 12. Factor, x plus 4, x minus 3. So we get x equals -4 and 3. Good? No, why not? Yeah, we said my restriction, one of them was -4. That's no good. So just 3. Okay? So again, step by step, when it says check for extraneous solutions, I'm looking at those restrictions and seeing if one of my answers is listed as a restriction. So do you see now why I drilled restrictions into your head so early? All right, if just now I started talking about restrictions, you'd be like, what the heck is she talking about? Okay, but we've seen them, we know what they are. All right, number 4. Last one for today. Yeah. We're going to do those tomorrow. I don't want to throw too much at you today or your head will explode. We are. We're solving today. We're solving just fraction equals fraction today. Tomorrow we're going to solve, you'll have fraction equals fraction plus a fraction. Like you have more stuff. Today it's just fraction equals fraction. Please take that out of your mouth. I'm a mom. Take that out of your mouth. Top of his pop can tab. He had it in his mouth.
I'm sorry.
As a mom, I'm like, oh, that's a choking hazard. Don't do that. Get that out of your mouth. Sorry. It's the mom instinct. All right. So if you guys want to talk restrictions first, we can. What would my restrictions be? We know this one. Just this one tells me -2. In order to know the restriction here, you'd have to factor this. How does that factor? So my restrictions would be also 8 and 2. So plus or minus 2 and 8. Now, I'd factor that to find my restriction, but do I really want it factored? No, I don't. Okay, so if you're going to do that first, which is totally fine, we don't want it factored yet. No, we don't want it factored. Okay, if you look at your paper, does it say factor denominators first? No, not on this set. If I was adding and subtracting, yes, but not here. All right, so we're going to cross multiply. So 2 times x squared minus 10x plus 16 equals, I have 2x minus 4 times x plus 2. And again, why I've shown you step by step what I'm writing down, because right here. Yes.
It's like the one where you 2x over.
The F word. You just got them flip-flopped for me.
Oh.
Is everybody okay where I'm at right now? All I did was cross multiply. I haven't actually multiplied. I just wrote down what I'm multiplying. So we'll distribute, right? Right here. So 2x squared what has to happen over there? Thank you. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Language. Man. So 2x squared plus 4x minus 4x minus 8. All right. Now, guys, this goes back to like basic algebra 1 from here. Don't overthink this. Okay? Are we all right where I'm at right now? I distributed and I had to distribute the binomials on the other side. I had to use the F word. Are we okay? All right. From here, I got a kind of a mess going on, right? If I clean up some like terms, what happens to my like terms over here? They go away. These cancel out. Do I have an x squared? What happens when I subtract to move them to the same side? Cancel out. Right? If I subtract 2x over here, it cancels out. So do I have to set this equal to 0, or can I just solve it? Just solve it. I'm going to rewrite just what I have so we can see it. Negative 20x plus 32 equals negative 8. And Sam worked ahead earlier. She's tried to set it equal to 0 because it's in her instinct to try to set it equal to 0 and factor, right? I drilled that into your head to this point to factor everything. But I don't have to here. I'm going to subtract the 32. I don't have an x squared, just solve it. No worries about setting it equal to 0. So negative 20x equals negative 40. So what does x equal? 2. Wait, what? Why not? My restrictions are plus or minus 2 and 8. Yeah, so this is not a good answer. So there is no solution. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. All right. Now again, I want to make sure you understand why is there no solution. Why is that a restriction? What's that mean? The denominator will equal 0. If you plugged in a 2 here, 2 squared is 4. That would be minus, 40, 20. I can't plug in a 2, can I? 10 times 2 is 20, plus 16. That's going to give you 0 in the bottom. And if I have a 0 in the denominator, can't do that, right? You can't divide by 0. So no matter what number you try to plug in for x to make those two fractions equal each other, nothing's ever going to work. There's no solution. How are we feeling? Yeah, not so bad, right? Okay, good.